our age of advanced technology.
And I'm doing great today, Dr. Ed. What's up?
People are naturally attracted to those who are authentic.
I always knew I would do something big. I knew I was built to do something special.
It led over time to a pretty dark place.
As soon as my feet hit the ground in the morning, I've made a choice not to stop unless I'm asleep.
You know, I'm a 22-year overnight success.
How do I find the freaking jack to get to the next level?
Travis, how you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Ed.
You know what? I'm incredibly excited about the conversation today because, I think this is, even in our pre-chat, we kind of talked a little bit about how easy it is to become sedentary, especially when you have the online entrepreneurial lifestyle. So this is actually going to be really helpful for me from a selfish perspective. But for those out there, Travis, who don't know you or what you do, could you share a little bit about yourself, but also, what your superpower is?
Absolutely. Love it, Ed. So I've got a little bit different story than the average entrepreneurial journey. I was just like everyone else, so to speak, meaning the average middle class America, grew up with a lot of support. I never had that story, where I lived out of my car and begged for money. I was actually just really, really blessed. And I had a really supportive family, got a great education at a good university, always made good grades growing up and through college. And I just more or less followed what I was supposed to do. That being said, it made things very easy to just settle for the mediocrity way of living. And I know the stories out there, the rags to riches and all this. And that was actually a self-limiting belief for me because I'm like, I don't have this comeback story. There's not enough pain in my life to really move me forward. But in actuality, the pain was that I was just kind of stagnant. And it led over time to a pretty dark place. I went through a period of time where I was depressed. I didn't like myself. I remember staring at myself in the mirror one morning and thinking man, is this it? Is this how life's supposed to be? I wasn't happy with the way I looked. I didn't feel good. I really did lack drive. And from the outside looking in, people say, man, you're making good grades. You're doing all these things right. And I'm like, this is not what I thought it was or what I was told that it was. And I was always one of those skinny kids growing up, and was told, your genes, you can eat whatever you want, no worries. And I could for a while until I started to develop a poor relationship with food, and I used food as more of a coping mechanism, especially at night. And I gained probably 50, 60 extra pounds. And I was one of those kids too embarrassed to take his shirt off at the pool. And but I think the worst part about it was I was just tired. I lacked any real focus. So to make a very long story short, I obviously had that turning point where I decided that life was not just about me. There's a reason why we're here. There's a greater purpose. And it's like you said before, I love that word you use, superpower. It's we all have a superpower. And once you realize that, and you realize that you can serve others with that, everything changes. Then you have your why. And when you actually, it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to believe it. When you actually start to believe it, that's when everything changes. And that's when I decided to get in shape, and I started a business along the way as well. And basically I made it my mission to see that other entrepreneurs, influencers, leaders do the same, because if you can help an influencer, if you can support an influencer, then your reach and your impact is far greater. And the problem is that most people think, well, I've got this business to run, I'm trying to make things work in my marriage, and the health just, for lack of a better term, it just gets thrown on the back burner. But the fact is, by serving everyone else and taking care of, your kids, your family, your colleagues, your employees, all these other people, and even your cats and dogs, and you leave the little time for to serve you at the end of the day, it's going to catch up with you. And it shows up physically, right? It shows up, some people gain some weight, other people, so their adrenals start to malfunction, leading to adrenal fatigue. Some people's testosterone starts to go down. Yes, that's women as well. And all of a sudden, like your health starts going awry, and you think, oh, I just want to lose 20 pounds. But most people don't know you got to get healthy first. And that's a tough conversation to have, because in today's society, we're like, oh, I want it now. The lack of patience that we've all, we want for tomorrow, it's mind blowing to me. And I think it has to do with the society we're in. And this is, business as well. We want things to happen so quickly that it often becomes the reason why nothing happens at all.
I love this conversation that we're having today, because, it's also, like I said, real to me, but I love the story that you tell about how you went into that dark place. So there was a moment for you. There was that pivotal moment for you when you knew that, look, this is working for me. Now, this is something that I want to help others and support them in as well. Is that correct? Yes,
it is. And diving a little bit more into that story, during that time when I decided to make that change, I started out swimming, of all things. And I kind of just fell into my lap. I was in school at the time. I was at the University of Texas there in Austin. And I decided, you know what? There's a swimming and conditioning class. Might as well take it. Like, I could use some exercise. It wasn't like an intentional thing like, oh, I just want to lose some weight. It was more of like, okay, it's here. I know I need to exercise. Let's just do it. And when I did it, it wasn't like the fact that I became leaner and started to lose the fat. It was the feeling that I felt when I got out of that pool every day. It was a feeling of like empowerment. And like at the time, I wasn't self-aware enough to realize like, that this is my emotions and my state of being is telling me something that I should follow. I just knew, like, I just felt good and I liked it. So from a selfish perspective, I wanted more of it. So how could I, first of all, follow that passion while also, being immersed in this lifestyle? And that's what led me to also start a business at the same time.
I like what you're saying here too about, how your health and how your fitness is really interrelated, like it's intertwined with our business as well. To be honest with you, I had this conversation with a mentor not long ago, like a week ago, and he's luckily you got it. Your health or your fitness floats all boats. Like it helps with your business, it helps with your spirituality, helps with your relationships. I mean, it's really the key thing that we need to look at. And I think a lot of those aspiring entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs who are listening today to this podcast, I hope they're soaking this in. And Travis, what would you say is your, like in one word or one sentence, what is your superpower? What is your strength?
I teach people how to utilize balanced discipline. So what does that mean?
Exactly.
Well, essentially what it means is it goes back to kind of our previous conversation about people think the more that they do, the more productive they're going to feel, the better they're going to feel at night. But let's look at it like this. Let's imagine a curve. On the left side, you have the guy who sits on the couch all day, who's obese, very anxious, maybe even depressed about where they are in life. And on the other side of the curve, completely other side, so on the right side of the curve, you have someone who's just shredded to the bone. 3% body fat, looks like you could be on the cover of Men's Health magazine, and you're like, man, I want to look like that. But what you don't know is inside the life is sucked out of you. I know. I've been on stage. I've been 3% body fat. What you see is far different than what they're feeling. I promise you that. And so somewhere in the middle, right, is this balanced way of living, right? There's just enough discipline to give you the balance to be more to feel alive, right? Because there's a certain point on each side of the curve where you start to go towards, one of the extremes where your testosterone starts to plummet. And that's whether, you may be overweight in your testosterone, especially after the age of 30. And on the opposite side, if you're too shredded, which most people don't fit under this boat, but if you are, it's also doing damage too. So it's understanding it. It's a level of awareness on where we want to be on that curve and setting realistic expectations. Because in the middle of that curve, this is where you feel active, energetic, where your personality really shines through. the place where you build relationships. You can go out with friends to eat, maybe enjoy a few beers from time to time, maybe go out to dinner with your family and not feel guilty about it. Because what I found is most entrepreneurs, influencers, this high achieving type mentality is great. The problem is that we set expectations for ourselves that aren't realistic. So we beat ourselves up when we don't achieve it fast enough. And this actually creates more anxiety. This actually creates a ton of inflammation and stress on the body. And like I said before, can quite literally get in the way of you transforming anything, not just your health, but your fitness, the way you look as well. But it's that middle of the curve, that's where balanced discipline comes into place, where your relationship with food changes. And this is where you really thrive.
And so if that's your superpower, basically what would you say is your weakness, whether it be in your business or how you relate to clients? What is your kryptonite right now?
Interesting. This is a very interesting subject. I was actually having a conversation the other day about it. And for the case of full transparency, for me, the biggest opportunity in my business is, so the way I work with people is I'm with them throughout their entire journey, and we're talking often. And oftentimes when I would get on the phone with clients, I would feel reactive, and I put myself in this reactive place because I wanted to give so much value. And so it came off as me talking fast. I would be on a 30-minute call with somebody. I would stop, get off, and I felt like I just, ran a marathon. Like, why do I feel like this? It's a very interesting topic because it goes back to the high expectations that you set for you. You want your clients to succeed. But oftentimes, if you don't communicate it in a way, and if you're just spending all your time talking, thinking that you're giving value, you're not at all. Listening is one of the most underutilized tools. And it sounds cliche, but the way I got out of it was that I actually had a client. This was about a year ago. I had a client who literally said, this is how he feels. And I'm like, wait a second, that's what I do. And so it's calling yourself out on your BS. And in this case, my BS was that I was actually incongruent with what I was preaching.
It can definitely be, that incongruency. I mean, I can completely empathize with you. Some days I'll get off a call, I get off a day of calls, and I'm just like, I'll say to my wife, who's also an online entrepreneur, and just be like, man, I am freaking exhausted. Just like exhausted. And it shouldn't be that way, I don't think. It should be that you're energized at the end of your day with clients. Let me ask, I'm really interested to find, Travis, how do people find you? I mean, like, other than having a website, I mean, how do clients actually come to you? Do you do webinars? Do you have, what is it that brings people or attracts people to your business? How does that look?
Yeah, love it. So I do a number of things. I put myself out there as much as I can. And in doing so, I go to some conferences, some seminars. I go to a similar seminar that you just went to, the Sharfin event. I'm at the Sharfin facility quite often. I love that place. Alex Sharfin with the entrepreneurial personality type. He knows us better than we know ourselves. It's pretty crazy. I do Facebook Live once a week so you can find me on Facebook. I'm posting very often. I have an email list. I mean, there's a ton of different ways, and I hate the term I hate when people say, I'm anywhere and everywhere, because the fact of the matter is your audience isn't anywhere and everywhere. And so and I've recently just got on Snapchat. So I'm not on every platform online, but I know where I can help the most people. And that is, for me, is Facebook, Instagram, Facebook Live videos, some emails, but really my bread and butter is in person.
Outstanding. I like this too, because this is an incredible tip for the entrepreneur who is listening, the aspiring entrepreneur who is listening, is to actually look and see where are your fans and followers? Where are they hanging out? Like, where's your, quote unquote, the avatar that the ideal client? Where do they hang out? For me, specifically, it's 30 to 50, that demographic. for chiropractors or aspiring entrepreneurs, even they're hanging out on Facebook, they're hanging out on Twitter. So that's where I put the majority of my time and my effort in actually putting out value and free content and building a following. What would you say, Travis? You meet a lot of people who are probably new to the online entrepreneurial space and maybe trying to make this stuff happen and working at it, maybe at a state of frustration. But what would you say is the number one misunderstanding of online business that leads to failure?
Oh man, how long do we have? I honestly, right off the bat, I would say that there's this dream that most internet marketers sell, that you can, put up a bunch of Facebook ads and watch the money pour in. But what's not said is that when you're starting a business, when you're going down this entrepreneurial world, it's all about building and mastering relationships. And don't limit yourself by saying, I'm online, the only thing I can do is online. I had this belief for a long time, and it actually limited me, because now I'm doing I've been speaking a lot more. At the end of this month, I'll be going to a WeWork facility, which is a basically place where entrepreneurs set up shop, and I'll be speaking there. So I've been putting myself out there in ways where I'm not just behind a computer all the time. Yes, that's one of the most important aspects in any online business. But to get out there and just, if something scares you, if you're afraid to get on Facebook Live, just do it. And every time that you recognize that you're uncomfortable about something and choose to just say, you know what, I'm going to do it and see what happens. It's the expectations that we set for ourselves that get in the way. Go in with no expectations. Go in with no expectations, because it's not, right off the bat, you're not going to be perfect. Be who you are and say what you feel, because, those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter, right? It's not, you have a purpose. You have a message. Nothing else matters. Your intentions. People are going to look at you and say, I don't agree with that. That's okay. That's okay. It doesn't really matter, because you're unique. You have a gift, and you know that you can serve. So it's your duty, your moral obligation as a change agent to serve. But all in all, it's really being congruent with your personality. If you're an extrovert like myself, you should be around people from time to time, because you get energy from people. Now that could be, it doesn't matter whether that's on the phone but it's reaching out to them. It could even be Facebook Messenger, but it's constantly being around people. Introverts, their personality fits more with, okay, I can sit behind a computer and mess with ads, and you can start a business and bring in a lot of money that way. But just know, whatever route that you choose, if it's incongruent with your personality, what you like, what you enjoy, where you get your momentum from, so to speak, it's going to be a tough route. It's going to be a tough road for sure, because you're going to feel reactive and frustrated and not know why.
What would you say, in the pre-chat, you and I were kind of talking, and I'm like, dude, Travis, I have probably put on 20, 25 pounds since I started doing this, sitting my ass in this chair, doing podcasts, creating content for online memberships, supporting members, coaching calls. It's completely a different lifestyle than I've ever expected. And it's not like I've changed my nutrition. I'm not eating any different. I'm maybe not exercising at the same intensity that I used to, but I still notice. Is that something that you would say, with a client, is that as an online entrepreneur, are we more apt for that to happen, for our body composition to change? Is it the stress relation? What would you say?
I would say, to start, it depends. It depends, because you mentioned a few things there. You mentioned stress. You as an individual react or respond to stress differently than me, differently than someone else. And so in order to understand that, you've got to understand really how stress affects your body. So number one, look at your day like a cup of water. And the moment that you get out of bed, your phone goes off, or you read a Facebook message that you don't like, your cup is empty, right? But as soon as you read something you don't like, or you start getting into that reactive mode, you're immediately thinking about your to-do list, and it's like ADHD, ADD, or any other disorder you could possibly think of, that and those are simply just disorders, by the way. There's not really anything wrong with you. This is normal, right? And what happens is a drop of water enters into your cup, and then you're late to drop your kids off at school, drop of water. You exercise. This is something that's positive, but it's still it's an external stressor. Another drop. And by the time most people hit their pillow at night, their cup is overflowing. And this leads to further anxiety. This leads to that like morning fear reactivity. And later down the road, this starts affecting you start to talk about your stress hormones. Cortisol starts to go up. And the best way that I can describe how you know if you have or if you're experiencing higher cortisol, if you've ever been pulled over by a police officer, right? You're driving down the road and all of a sudden you see the lights in your mirror flash. Your heart like goes up into your stomach. You're like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And you immediately go, that is a spike of cortisol. That feeling, right? If you have even a small dose of that throughout the day, the odds that you're over time going to start to develop low testosterone problems, your blood work's going to be all over the charts, high cholesterol, and then later down the road past that, adrenal fatigue. Now that's just the stress portion of it. That's without talking about anything else. But if you were to have, a foolproof exercise plan that you're following perfectly and it fits for you, your lifestyle, your body, your preferences, same with nutrition, it doesn't matter if you're not addressing the amount of stress that you're having. So to have a health and fitness conversation separately, this doesn't make sense. Today, health and fitness have been separated. Health is someone who most people think of as the hippie who only eats organic and only meticulously eats these certain foods. And on the other side, you've got fitness, which is the bodybuilder, someone who is absolutely obsessed with the only thing they care about is how this food is going to give me more muscle. But again, it's that balance. It's health and fitness, not one without the other. Because you can't. And the way I typically look at it is, you're not going to become fit and then become happy. You've got to become happy and then you'll let yourself become fit. And happiness is determined a lot by the amount of stress. If we constantly have low energy, that's going to affect your state. And eventually your story is going to shift, the story that you tell yourself every morning. And if it's not a story of empowerment, you will have negative thoughts throughout the day. And no matter what happens, no matter what plan is given to you, you'll say, you know what? I told you this wouldn't work. I told you I'm done. I can't do this. The first problem, and you'll run. And this is why you see so many people who are on this roller coaster, going from Atkins to paleo to any other fad diets that you can think of. And in most cases, they do lose weight, right? I've got a client, his name's Jefferson. I'm not going to say his last name because I didn't ask him, but he lost 70 pounds in 12 weeks through, I think it was like, what was it? It's like an Atkins or I forget exact Nutrisystem or something like that. And 12 weeks later, he gained 90. And the amount of stress that every time you do this to your body is unbelievable. It starts to affect you metabolically. And I'm seeing this time and time again where people, they love the rush of losing the weight just to gain it back. They love the rush of losing the weight just to gain it back. And you ask them, 3-4 years of this, and you ask them, where are they now? And they'll say, I'm at my highest weight yet. And not only that, but when they look in the mirror, even when they compared themselves to a similar weight before, because they've lost so much muscle throughout the way. Because when you lose 70 pounds in 12 weeks, you're going to be losing a ton of muscle. Yeah, you're losing some fat, but you're losing a ton of muscle. And when you gain it rapidly back, you're not adding muscle. It's all fat. So you actually look, the way you look, your structure looks completely different. And this is when people are like, fed up. And this is typically where I come into play, right? Where people are like, all right, I'm done with this. I'm tired of these quick fixes. And I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day about, we're now in the best place possible in terms of like how we're feeling, in terms of self-awareness. So we are more enlightened now than ever. And it's great to see this because people are now becoming more aware of the quick fix mentality, that they're having this and that it's not working. And that like these sales pitch, lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks. It doesn't make any sense anymore. And because of that, people are looking for a lifestyle change. They realize that it must be a lifestyle change. This isn't something that you do 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, see results. It's something you can do for 10 years. And if you don't find something that you enjoy doing that fits and meshes within your lifestyle, then it's not going to work. That's not sustainable. If you can't do it for 10 years, why do it at all?
I love this conversation because it really is lifestyle. That's really what we're talking about. And this podcast is all about laptop lifestyle. And, I've been doing this for 2 years now. And all it takes to gain 25 pounds, 24 pounds is 1 pound a month. That's all it takes to put that on. I mean, it doesn't take a lot. And I can see that it's not about what I'm doing or not doing. It can sometimes be related to my body chemistry. So how I'm reacting to stress, like you're mentioning. I love this conversation. So Travis, if there's someone out there right now, and I know there is, and they're having a struggle, they're having a challenge with trying to figure this all out, demystify how they can, be at their absolute healthiest and fittest so that they can actually grow and expand their business. How can they get a hold of you? How can they find you?
Oh, they can find me at travisdillard.com. What I'll do is there's a tab there, and it's called the Healthy Traveler's Cheat Sheet, and you can click on that. It's completely free. And basically it kind of takes what I've talked about here today about the balance, but being very practical and realistic with it, because in some cases you're not going to be at home. You're not going to be at home base. And we often rationalize, I'll take this weekend and it'll be an outlier and I'll get back to it afterwards. But it doesn't have to be like that. In fact, when you go to conferences, when you go on family vacations, you want to have energy. You want to be fully present. But if you're constantly eating, breads and pizzas and all these other processed stuff, your body's going to spend more of its time trying to get out and process this food, taking away from your mental clarity and your overall understanding and for your ability to appreciate what's happening and to learn and to love. So Healthy Traveler's Cheat Sheet at travisdillard.com. Feel free to grab it. Or you can connect with me on Facebook. Just type in Travis Dillard. I'll be the first one that pops up. Feel free to add me as a friend. Would love to chat.
Beautiful. And so listeners, you can actually head to laptoplifestylepodcast.com, and we'll have a webpage dedicated to our discussion with Travis today as well. And we'll have clickable links so that you can actually connect with him on Facebook. You can actually get a hold of that Healthy Travelers. Healthy Travelers, is it like a cheat sheet for them, Travis, then, that they can download? Yes,
it's a Healthy Travelers cheat sheet. And
Beautiful.
Just go to travisdillard.com, and you'll see it. I believe it's the third tab to the right.
Awesome. And so if you're listening, what are the 60% of people who are listening on their mobile right now? Go ahead and actually open up the show notes there and on your mobile, and you can actually go and do that right through your mobile. Travis brought it today. Huge value. I love the conversation because you know what? If we don't have our health, we don't have anything. I mean, it truly does float all boats in life. So thank you for being on the Laptop Lifestyle Podcast and giving back today.
Thanks for having me, Ed. Had a blast.
Hey, I want to thank you for listening today. And if you're new to the podcast, head over to thelaptoplifestylepodcast.com and hear more from 6, 7, and 8-figure online entrepreneurs. Even better, head over to iTunes, give us a rating and review, and that will help us help more aspiring online entrepreneurs. Appreciate you and see you on the next Laptop Lifestyle Podcast.